Hola, hola. Welcome to Coffee with Photographers. Thank you for tuning in this first episode. My name is Neto Velasco, and I'm a Mexican lifestyle photographer living in Los Angeles. On today's episode, I will be having some coffee with Liz Bretz, an amazing photographer based in LA who shoots incredible emotional portraits. Hey Liz, how are you? Thank you for being on this podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Of course, I'm good. Today is a sunny day in Los Angeles, so
it's a gorgeous day.
I know, it's incredible. Okay, so we are having coffee right now. How do you usually have your coffee? How do you take it?
So there's this coffee shop down the street from me that I usually go to, and I get a hot Americano with an extra shot.
Okay.
And then I put in oat milk.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you prefer oat milk than almond milk?
I used to, before I started this pretty strict and restricted diet at the beginning of the year. So there's no dairy allowed. Usually I would put half and half in.
Yeah.
But I've discovered that oat milk, or even oat milk combined with coconut milk, is the best. The dairy alternative that I prefer.
Okay, I like that. I'll have to try that one. Right now we're trying this is my first time trying this coffee with oat milk. It's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
I thought it was going to be like very, very watery and not as creamy.
I feel like the oat milk has more of a cream than the other dairy alternatives. I feel like almond milk, you have to put half of the cup almond milk.
As I was saying before the podcast, that's what happened to me today.
Yeah.
I ran out of half and half. I had almond milk, but it was just not the same.
So oat milk all the way.
I know.
I recommend trying the oat milk coconut combo.
I'll try
There's
that one.
extra creaminess with the coconut.
That sounds super good, actually. All right, Liz, how did you start being a photographer?
I guess I'll tell you the very quick shortened version.
Yeah.
In high school and growing up, photography was always a hobby and passion of mine. Took all the photography courses, did my graduation project on photography.
Cool.
Then I went to college in Boston and kind of abandoned it. I was refocusing on something else professionally.
Okay.
I wanted to work in something creative, and I studied and started working in advertising.
Nice.
But also with photography, it was always just a hobby, and I never really saw it as a professional career.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know any photographers around me. If I did, it was more like fine art landscape artists.
Okay.
No one that was really going to the levels that I wanted to go to. So I really saw myself as a creative professional. So I went into advertising, immediately realized I didn't want to be doing it.
But what were you doing in advertising?
Broadcast production.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, I mean, yeah. But I saw working in advertising that there were professional photographers who were being hired. And I kind of tucked that in the back of my mind, recognized that was something that was possible.
Of course, that was an actual job.
And you can make money.
Yeah.
And so I left Boston and moved home for about a year, and then moved out to LA, not really knowing what I wanted to do. I felt like I was just being pulled out here.
Yeah.
And my sister lived here at the time, and she had an extra room, and I was like,
That's incredible.
I'm just going to live with you for a little bit.
And how long was that?
Oh, this is a long time ago.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to be my 15th year out here.
Whoa, yeah, that's incredible. I've been only 5 years, and it's still very tough.
I feel like I'm just in the last couple of years, I feel like I have my community, I have my network, I feel comfortable, I call this home, especially with just the way that Los Angeles is. It's so spread out. And
Super spread out.
It's a bunch of different neighborhoods, a bunch of different cities, and so it's kind of an isolating city, and even when you are out and about, you're alone in your car. There's no real interactions, and so you can feel very alone. It's very easy to feel alone in Los Angeles.
And that's what I say every time, like to my wife. I'm like, this is a very big city. There's a million people, like a lot of people out there, and I feel I've never felt so alone.
Yeah.
And coming from Mexico, and at this age, it's like I already had my group of friends in Mexico. I already have everything, and coming here and not having that, it took a toll on me for sure.
Yeah, the first couple of years were really tough out here.
I know. I'm so lucky I met my wife, who's like my best friend.
Aww,
so
that's amazing. How'd you guys meet?
Tinder.
Oh, that's amazing. I love
Yeah.
hearing that. I love hearing modern romance stories.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
the thing is, like, I came to LA. I felt super lonely. I went on Tinder, not looking like for a hookup or a girlfriend or anything like that. Like, literally, my Tinder profile said I'm looking for friends.
Totally.
And just like anyone who wants to hang out, like let's meet. And then I met my wife through Tinder.
That's amazing. How long have you guys been together?
Well, next week we will be 4 years married.
Oh, congratulations. Happy
Thank
anniversary.
you. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
actually, yeah, next Saturday. But anyway, so you've been here 15 years.
Been here 15 years. And then when I got here, I just worked in retail for a little bit, just kind of trying to figure out what am I doing here.
Yeah. So you were not a photographer?
No,
Okay.
I wasn't. But before I had moved out to Los Angeles, I had gotten into a romantic relationship, and he was an artist, and it kind of rekindled my passion for photography,
Okay.
because I had abandoned it for a little while I was in college and while I was working in advertising. And so through that romantic relationship that was pretty short-lived, I remembered that I liked photography.
Okay.
So I had been doing just personal projects and like little photo stories for myself. But while I was working here, I learned about Brooks Institute of Photography, which
Okay.
it's no longer around, unfortunately, but it was a very well-known technical photography school up in Santa
Nice.
Barbara. So I applied, got in, and then I got another degree from Brooks Institute
That's
in
incredible.
photography. Yeah, it was really, really great. Actually, it was amazing. I was living in Santa Barbara, going to school for photography. It was very idealistic.
I know, that sounds incredible. That sounds like, okay, I like this is a dream. Like
It
Santa
was.
Barbara and going to school for photography.
Absolutely. It really, really was. It was a lot of work, very technically driven, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
And then I left Santa Barbara after I graduated, moved back down to LA, and just started assisting.
Okay.
So
And how long ago was this that you went to school?
Graduated from Brooks in 2009. And then
Okay.
the school closed not too shortly after.
And speaking about school, do you recommend new photographers to go to school for photography? Because I went to school too in Mexico.
Yeah.
We have, in my city, I was fortunate enough that there was a photography college. So it was 3 years studying photography. I did that. But that was so long ago.
Yeah.
I believe it was like 2008, 2009 when I finished that. And like today, I don't know if I would recommend new photographers to go to school because, you know, like there's YouTube, there's books, you can assist photographers, you can learn everything through community, through going out with photographers or things like that. So what's like your perspective with school
For sure.
nowadays?
I think right now the landscape has changed a lot in what's accessible and what's accessible to and available to someone who's interested in learning. Photography school is really expensive, so there's also that part of it, and you can learn what you need to learn at a much cheaper, more cheaply online. But it's important to take into account what type of learner you are.
Okay.
Like if you are a self-motivated learner and you do well with online tutorials and you can make it happen and you're motivated, I think, then go for it. If you're more of a learner that needs
to go to class,
benefits going to class, doing papers, learning tactically with a mentor in the space, I would recommend that. I think it's reflecting on what type of learner you are and how and like what's going to be the most beneficial.
True. And for instance, I don't have that discipline to listen to tutorials, to watch the YouTube videos and learn on my own. Like I wish I was disciplined, and I work on that every day.
Yeah.
And every day there's something new that I want to learn.
For sure.
But then I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch YouTube. I'm going to learn about this. I'm going to read these books. And then I just like don't do it.
Yeah.
Then I'm just watching videos about cats or things like that.
100%. And I'm the same way. And I wish I I think now is different because the things that I want to learn are very specific, and I can look that up on YouTube and be like, okay, this is what I just need to know. But as far as the general learning about photography as an industry and as a craft, for me, I'm better in a classroom.
Same.
And better as an assistant in learning real world. And I didn't have that self-reflection when I was applying to school. I just did it because that was my only option. But I think looking back at any advice I would give for people who are trying to decide whether to go to photography school or not, I think it's really reflect and see what type of learner you are and what are you going to how are you going to benefit the most.
And you know what? It's also good. Like for me, it was good to go to school because I met people. And I am a very shy and anxious person. So being on my computer like all day with no human interaction, like obviously that's not great for me as a shy and anxious person. So going out of my comfort zone, meeting people, working with other photographers, that really helped me. Like not being as shy as I was, you know?
Absolutely. And photography is a collaborative effort. It's
true.
There's many people that are working on set, learning how to interact with models. It's something that you're going to benefit more by inserting yourself into a community or a situation where you're actually doing it.
Yeah, and in the photography industry, like you work with people. So you need to know how to solve problems or how to interact, to communicate in order to achieve the goal that everyone is trying to achieve. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, as I said, I went to school in Mexico. It was incredible. And when I came here to LA 5 years ago, I went to school for marketing. And I went to UCLA. I took the extension course.
Awesome.
And it was great. I loved the school. Yes, I could have learned that on YouTube or books or things like that. But the people that work there, they're just amazing. And after going to school, like they're my clients now. Like even the students I went to school with and the teachers, they're like, oh, you do photography too. And as you know, like marketing, like they need photographers, they need graphic designers because I'm a graphic designer too. And it's just incredible. Like I still have contact with my teachers, with the fellow students, and they became clients now.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that's really, really important is network and community.
Of course.
Which you get from going to school. And if you're a self-motivated individual who can learn quickly or benefit from learning online or on YouTube or be a self-taught photographer, I would assume that you would also be very outgoing. That's a wrong assumption, but also be good at networking too.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that those might go hand in hand. But
which can be super stressful, like networking. Like I've canceled so many of those networking events because I just get so anxious. I'm like, oh, and especially because English is not my first language.
But you speak it so well.
Thank you so much.
Honestly, very well.
But it's like I have to think a lot, you know?
That's okay.
But I'm trying to get there. But I've attended to those networking events. Yeah, it's the way to go. Like it really matters who you know and who you meet. Because like if you just stay at home or on Instagram or sending direct messages, it's not as effective as like being in person.
Absolutely.
Because then they can see like your work ethic, like that you're disciplined, that you're professional, and
And it's so much easier for someone to ignore or say no if it's just an online communication.
Of course.
If you're face to face, the likelihood of you engaging with them is so much greater.
True. Like every day I send emails, I send direct messages to brands that I want to work with, right? But I'm sure they get like so many of them. What I started doing is I printed a portfolio. Like I went old school. Like I printed a small zine. It's half size, half letter size. So, and I mail it. I find the marketing guy or the creative director for the company that I want to work with. And I send them my portfolio, this zine, and I tell them like why I want to work with them. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But being in person, like going to these networking events, that's like number one way to get a job, like to get to collaborate with brands.
Absolutely. And also they see who you are.
Of course.
Because at the end of the day, people want to work with people that they want to work with, that there's no drama, there's a great working energy. Just to show who you are and your personality just gets you ahead of the line.
I think it's that, like the energy, like you can really feel like energy from the other
or
person.
like I trust that guy to work with my brand.
Yeah,
yeah,
me too. So when did it become a paid job, like doing photography?
As a shooter, so I was assisting for about 6 years.
Okay, after school.
Okay. For celebrity photographers, and actually I took a whole bunch of jobs.
Okay.
I worked in celebrity. I did weddings. I did headshots. I did family portraiture. Mostly because I needed money, but also in the back of my mind, because I was willing to just take whatever job I needed real world practice, because as much as you go to school and you're working on projects and working on teams and like constantly shooting, it's not real world experience and working for clients and how to manage expectations of clients and what do I do when this goes wrong? How can I manage this situation on shoot day? So I just took as many projects as possible. And from my first paid job, I don't remember what it was, but it was probably family portraiture.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I was going through school, my niece was about 4 years old, so I would use her as a test subject a lot.
Okay.
And so I just had this portfolio of a really cute kid.
Of course.
So I used that first of saying, hey, I can shoot.
I can do family portraits.
Yeah, I can shoot. And mostly kid stuff, like really interesting, artistic child portraits.
I saw some portraits on your Instagram. That's amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Thank you. So when I started out, I was doing child portraits in a kind of Wes Anderson, Mark Ryden aesthetic.
Definitely saw that. Definitely.
And it was interesting because that was my first, it was very beautiful work to me and to other people whose child it wasn't.
Okay.
Because when the father or the mother, people who knew the child saw it, it was a little too haunting for them.
Yeah, they were expecting something completely different.
It was just weird to see their kid in that light.
Yeah.
And that was a very quick recognition of these amazing portraits. My market isn't their parents. So those were my first actual shooting jobs.
Okay.
Was creating like fine art portraits of children.
I did. I started like almost the same. Like in school, like they teach you like how, like in a like family portrait situation or working with models or wedding photography and things like that. So after school, I did the same thing. Yeah. Like I tried it all. Yeah. And especially because I wanted to buy new equipment and like better lights and things like that. So I'm like, well, I have to get any job that I can, and then I'll get the money for the type of photography that I really want to do.
Absolutely.
So I did also like family portraits, and it was crazy because I did pictures of babies. I didn't think like it was going to be that bad. Yeah. But it was bad. Like the babies were just like crying.
It's
and
tough.
Yeah, and I had no like puppets or any toys for them, and yeah, I did a terrible job. It turned out fine. Like after a couple of minutes, the baby stopped crying and the pictures were good. But I was like, okay, no, this is my first and last photo shoot with babies. I did weddings too, but as I said, I'm very anxious. And a wedding, like if you don't get the picture at the right time, like for instance, putting the ring, like there's no coming back. You cannot be like, hey, can you do that again? Yeah. Because my camera failed or I was not there or something like that.
Yeah, weddings are hard. I've done a couple weddings, and you as a photographer, you also have to be kind of the director, and you have to be telling everyone where to be, where to go, and it's a wedding day, so people are excited, they're focused on other things. You're like gathering up and herding people and moving. It's a lot of work, and it kind of rests on your shoulders because you have to keep the day going, and you have to make sure that you get all the shots that they wanted.
I know
it's super hard. I'm very grateful for the training of that, because I learned just by out of necessity how to be more assertive. Yeah. Especially if I don't get this done, then if I don't do this, it's not getting done.
Of course.
So I'm grateful for, I shoot weddings on referral from friends, but I definitely don't advertise it.
Yeah.
I like weddings. too, because I like being close to love. I love, there's an intimacy there when it's just you, the bride and the groom, when you're doing their portraits. That's really, really beautiful. And there's something really special to bear witness to that.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
But overall, it's gnarly work.
I know.
It's a lot of work.
But as you said, it trains you
Yeah.
in order to like, okay, if you can do weddings, like you can do, I feel like you can do anything.
Oh my God.
Because
Yeah.
weddings, like you're solving problems like every second. You're like moving one way to another. You're talking to people. Yeah, it's crazy.
Problem solving for lighting situations because
yeah.
you're not in control of the light.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was great training ground.
Cool. And then, so right now you mostly do portraits, right?
Yes.
And when was it that you were like, okay, I'm done with all these other jobs. I'm going to focus on my portraits. And your portraits are amazing.
Oh, thank
like
you.
there's this emotion in every portrait, at least the ones that like I saw from your Instagram. There's so much emotion out of them.
Thank you.
When did you focus only on portraits?
I think photographing people has always been what I was the most drawn to. I also really enjoy shooting landscapes and doing fine art stuff, but what I really connect with are people.
Yeah.
And photographing people is where I find the most joy.
Okay.
And kind of, I really enjoyed doing conceptual portraiture, taking the idea of who this person is and expanding that visually.
So it work. How does it work? Like, do you find the model? Do they contact you?
It's all of the above.
Okay.
So people will reach out to me, and then we'll talk about what exactly that they're looking for, what I can add to it. I'll seek out people that I think are inspiring or might have a story to tell. Or people are hiring me.
Yeah.
And then we create portraits off of that. So it's across the board. Either I'm seeking out people or people are seeking out me.
But it's based on their personality. Like, for instance, this photo shoots, you don't have anything planned and then you just find a model.
Sometimes I do have plans.
Okay.
I think most of the time, it depends. Also, I'll see somebody and be totally inspired, like, oh, I'd love to shoot them in this way.
Yeah.
Or I have an idea brewing in my mind. I'm like, oh, this is kind of what I'm looking for. And then I'll look for the right person that might fit it. And even if it's not the right person, if I don't think it's the right person, because they're showing up on set, it ends up being the right person.
Okay.
And we create this really great thing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And do you use any apps or websites to meet people, like to meet models?
I mean, Instagram's a great tool.
Yeah, Instagram is the
Instagram.
best.
Like most of the stuff recently has been through Instagram.
Okay.
I rarely work with agencies unless it's a client paid shoot.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many restrictions with modeling agencies, because a lot of times I'm shooting nude, putting people in vulnerable situations, and there's a little bit more restriction when a model's attached to an agency.
Of course.
And especially shooting fine art. There's no release for fine art usually with modeling agencies.
Yeah.
So it's more models who are unattached to an agency or getting the job outside of their agency.
Okay.
So before then, maybe 10 years ago, up until 5 years ago, I was presently using Model Mayhem.
I'm trying that website too. I've had good experiences and also bad ones. I think it's just a weird website.
Yeah, you learn. Some people are flaky or not as professional as you would want them to be. So it's definitely, you got to do some digging and find them on Model Mayhem, but also look them up on Instagram and see like what their deal is.
Also, if it's like a real person or
100%.
I've heard very weird stories.
Yeah,
not like with photographers finding models. It's usually models finding photographers. The models I've taken pictures of, they're like, I'm so happy that you're like a regular photographer. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? And they just tell me like crazy stories of like other photographers trying crazy things.
Yeah. I've heard so many stories from female models talking about certain male photographers, putting them in like really uncomfortable situations.
I know, it's very sad to hear that that there's people like that in the industry.
Yeah.
Because like, for instance, when I contact people either on Instagram or on Model Mayhem, and also there's this other website called The Hub, The Hub.
Oh, I've actually never used that.
It's not like Model Mayhem because it's like focused towards like people who are like creating content like on a daily basis.
Got it. Okay.
And like not the type of content that you usually see on Model Mayhem. So that one works good, but every time I contact someone, they're like, I don't shoot nude. I need to bring someone with me. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, of course. Like whatever like makes you comfortable. Like, yeah, you can bring anyone.
Absolutely.
So after everyone, like all the models were telling me that, I was like, okay, like before I contacted, well, the first contact, I should specify like, hey, I don't ever shoot nude. I'm not gonna put you in an uncomfortable situation. And actually, like, I love shooting outside. Yeah. So I think that's like more comforting, like for a first meet with them. I think being outside is better. And I always say like, hey, bring anyone you want if that's gonna make you comfortable. I also bring my wife sometimes to the shoots because she's a makeup artist.
Oh, that's great.
I know. So whenever she has time, because she's always busy. She works as a makeup artist and she does hair in a salon. So she's always busy. But when she's not, I'm like, hey, can you come with me and like make sure the makeup is good? Yeah. So when they see that or when I mention that, they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, yes, let's shoot.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just crazy that there's people out there like that.
Absolutely. And I think I'm in kind of a different position as being a female photographer. Yeah. I think there's less... I think I'm giving more liberty as far as models immediately before even meeting me feel a little bit more comfortable, of course, just because I'm a female. Yeah. But even so, women will show up with friends and stuff.
Of course, and I love that.
Which I completely understand.
Yeah,
I
me
would
too.
do the same thing. You got to be safe and protect yourself.
Of course, like I tell them, like bring someone, like your boyfriend, your whoever, your girlfriend, your anyone, your friend, your roommate, anyone. And most of the times, like when I say that, like I bet they also like Google me or something like to see like I'm a real photographer, right? Right. And then they'll be like, no, it's fine. Yeah. And once we meet, then they're like, oh yeah, I'm like, thank you that you're like just super nice, like chill. And yeah, I don't shoot nudes. I don't do any of that photography. I respect that photography. It's just not my thing.
For sure.
I love like lifestyle portraits. I shoot a lot of things like that, like on the streets. So I think, I think it's been good that way.
For sure. And also I do shoot some nudes, but I will always tell the model from the beginning that this is the expectation.
Of course.
Just because I think it's so unfair and you're not establishing trust if you spring that on them during the shoot.
No way. No. You cannot do that.
No, absolutely not. So definitely 100% always transparent with this is the vision that I'm going for. It might require partial nudity. It might require whatever, just to make sure that they are on board. Because that's so manipulative if you don't do that.
I know. Yeah, that's a great tip like for new photographers. Like don't ever do that.
Yeah, you're always better. Even if you feel uncomfortable, like they're going to say no because you want to shoot nude, it's better to know that right away and to find someone who is interested. Because one, you don't want to establish the reputation of someone who does that. Yeah, and two, it's just really unfair.
Super unfair.
So
it's just a weird situation. Like imagine like the model being there and can you shoot nude? It's like, wait, what?
And it lessens your anxiety because you know that they know what we're getting into. You know, because like if you don't tell them and you're trying to spring, like there's so much anxiety that builds up on your end too. Yeah. So just always be straightforward.
Of course, what I do is I do a Pinterest board. Like for every shoot. And when I contact models that I want to work with, I'm like, hey, I have this vision. Of course, I know you're a creative too. If like, let's collaborate. Absolutely. Let's create a vision together. But this is my Pinterest board. What do you think of doing something like that? Yeah. And do you work with stylists or is it only you in the shoots?
Stylists are a little bit cost prohibitive. Thankfully, I love styling. So I do that for personal shoots and like fine art shoots. But if it's a client and there's a budget for a stylist, we'll bring on a stylist. I have a couple of friends who are stylists that will collaborate on certain projects. I highly respect stylists. They have so much work to do. Their job, there's so much work.
I know.
And it's expensive work. So when there's projects that allow for that, I'm so happy to work with them because they're able to find stuff that there'd be no way I could find that.
I know.
Or source it.
I admire stylists so much. Yeah. And I love working with them. And of course, like for instance, when I work with a brand and there's budget, like, of course, like I pay everyone, you know, it's not like, oh, do this for free or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like when there's money for everyone.
Absolutely.
So I love like getting a team together and listening to like their what they think about the shoot and just working together. I love collaborating with creative people.
Oh my God. And also, there's a stylist that I worked on for a shoot with Trevor Jackson for Preem magazine, and just the clothes just elevated the inspiration. So it was these clothes that were so inspiring that it took my mind to a new place photographically, and it just elevated everything. So it just,
Because it's like two professionals working together, like instead of one. Like, of course, the job is gonna be different. Yeah, I met this very cool stylist. My wife did makeup for a future video, and she said, "I need an assistant. Can you assist me?" I'm like, "I know nothing about makeup." She was like, "No, you just need to hand me like the makeup that I need and wash my brushes, like the makeup brushes." I'm like, "Sure, I'll help you." And I met this stylist, and she was just incredible, and she was so busy. I think she was the busiest one in that shoot. Yeah. But yeah, I love working with people. And the way I meet them, well, it's LA. So there's a lot of creative people, which is incredible. So when I go, like, for instance, to shows at night or something like that, like they'll know I'm a photographer, or I'll tell them and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm a stylist. Like, let's work together." Sure. And I just love that, like that way of meeting people here.
Yeah. Agreed. I meet most of the people on set because I'm on so many different sets that I didn't produce. Okay. So there's so many different people that I meet that way. But even I feel like most of the people that you meet in LA or work in the industry in some capacity. So there's always somebody to network with.
I know. And Instagram just makes it so easy just to contact them.
Yeah. I have this like backseated anxiety of, because essentially Facebook is our overlord now, and like if Instagram goes away, so many businesses.
I know.
Like, what would we do?
If if Instagram decides to shut down,
or even to start charging, which they could.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like a lot of people, and even me, like I'm like, oh, I'm not getting the engagement that I used to get, or people are not like Instagram is not showing my pictures to people, and then I'm like, wait. Like Instagram is free. Yeah. Like they don't owe you anything. No. So it's a free app. Like use it if you want. Don't use it if you don't want to. No. But don't expect Instagram to like do anything for you.
Do all your marketing for you.
I know exactly. And especially like if Instagram shuts down or decides to charge or do anything, like then what?
Well, they make enough money through ad revenue that they probably wouldn't. But we're at their beck and call essentially. Like we have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. But yeah, Instagram helps a lot, but it also, in my personal opinion, it affects me mentally, especially because like coming here from Mexico, I compare myself with a lot of photographers here. Yeah. And I'm like, I just open the app and I appreciate their work. I like their work. I'm like, why am I even trying to do this? Like if there's so many great photographers that I admire, and then I just feel sad. Yeah.
It's so hard not to compare yourself to other people. But I think one of the greatest pieces of advice that I've received is just don't compare yourself.
It's hard though,
it's really, really hard. And just know that there's space for everybody. True. And it's figuring out what your space is. Yeah. What is your avenue? What is your lane? I truly believe that there's enough room for everybody. And as soon as you start comparing yourself to other people, then that overtakes what your own creations and actually creating your own lane. It starts becoming too influenced and kind of muddied. And also it brings you down. It makes you you super bummed out, and there's nothing like a motivation killer than being depressed.
I know, it's crazy. Sad. And I've seen it with a lot of people and friends who are not only photographers, like musicians, makeup artists, stylists. Like it's crazy how Instagram, an app that it's free, can either bring you up. Like if, like for instance, if you get a lot of likes or things like that, you're like, yes.
Isn't that so crazy where we're at with social media? And
I know.
Like I have a niece who's 14 years old, and just to see, I mean, she's on it all the time, and just how much of her self-worth and her self-value is influenced by what's happening on Instagram or social media. It's wild. And I think you have control over it. You have control how you react to it.
Yeah,
you don't have control over Instagram, but you have control about what your relationship to it is and how you react to it.
And just using it as a tool, not like something that will let you down.
Absolutely.
Like what has worked on me is just stay busy and stay creative and do things and meet people and do all types of things, not only photography. Like for instance, that's why I started the podcast. Like I'm busy. Yeah. Like I'm not on my Instagram right now or anything like that. Like I'm listening to stories, I'm meeting cool people. Yeah. So yeah, just staying busy, I think.
And it feeds your soul more than scrolling through Instagram does.
Yeah, of course.
Which in the end will benefit your work and your creativity.
Of course, definitely. And you won't feel depressed or anything like that.
I think the thing with comparison is a big thing. I think it's really important to find inspiration in other people's work and like be able to, holy cow, look what they did. That's so inspiring, and love it, and take that love and inspiration and apply it to your work instead of tearing your work down.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but it's hard. It's a practice.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
It's a practice within, not to be self-deprecating, not to be self-destructive, but to take that energy from what you saw and make it beneficial to you. Exactly.
And the one thing that I told myself, and you said it earlier, it's like there's work for everyone. There's room for everyone. Like even if there's like a lot of photographers, there's a lot of everything. Not only photographers, there's a lot of everything. Yeah. But also there's a lot of people that need jobs done.
There's so many brands and so many companies, and especially we're actually very fortunate right now. There are so many photographers, but there's also so much work.
I know.
Because of social media and the internet and the way that commerce is done right now. Yeah. Everything happens online.
True.
If it's happening online, it needs visual representation. Yeah. You need to be able to see it online.
Yep.
Who creates that? A photographer.
Yep.
Literally everything needs a photographer.
I know. Everyone needs content. Yeah. Everything. Like this water bottle, this machine, like the notebook, the pens, everything.
The person.
Anything. Yeah.
Everything. So and just remember there's so much abundance out there, and just find that lane that gets you to what it matches you.
Of course. I learned that like before I used to try to get clients that I really didn't feel connected with. So then after that, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I took a step back and I'm like, okay, this is my personality. This is who I am. I would rather contact the brands that I feel connected to or that I admire.
And they're going to feel connected back to you.
Of course.
Because there's that just underlying thing that's happening. And you're going to have way more confidence in approaching because you're approaching as yourself.
Of course. You're not like faking it or,
or making up reasons why they should hire you.
I know. This happened to me. I do a lot of work for Vans, the footwear company in Vans, Mexico.
I love Vans.
Yeah, they're amazing. And the team from both United States and Mexico, they're incredible. I do a lot of work for the one in Mexico because they hire me because they're like, you're Vans, like you have that personality, like you used to skateboard, you're a photographer, like you're cool, you're what we're aspiring our customers to be. Yeah. So you understand the brand.
For sure.
So, and even being here in LA, like they call me, they're like, hey, we need a photo shoot. Like we'll fly you back, come to Mexico.
That's awesome.
Because you have that vision. Like you don't have to fake it or research or do anything. Like you already know what this is.
You are the brand.
Exactly.
I mean, you're your own version, but.
Yeah. No, I understand. But that works. And that has worked well for me to identify the brands I feel connected to and reach out to them.
For sure.
And even the way how I reach out to them, they'll be like, oh yeah, you're a good candidate. Yeah. Like you have the personality already.
For sure.
Yeah, that's incredible. And as you said, like everything and every brand needs content. There's jobs for everyone. That's why I like listening to stories from other photographers. And before we started recording the podcast, I was telling you that it's been difficult to have some photographers want to meet because a lot of us see competition, you know, and it's not all of them, but there shouldn't be competition because there's jobs for everyone. And I don't think like anyone is trying like to steal clients from anyone or anything like that. Like for instance, me meeting you, I'm not doing this like to steal your clients or anything like that. So I'm just trying to build just a community.
Absolutely.
You know, just to hear stories, and I'm learning right now through your story and just connecting in that way.
I love that.
And before the podcast, you were telling me that you have a studio.
I do.
Okay, how did that happen in LA? Because LA is just crazy.
Yes. LA is crazy. It's very expensive. When I was starting to make that transition towards the end of my assisting career into being a shooter, I needed space to shoot, and there wasn't a lot of affordable space that I could shoot in. I couldn't find anything, and so you were kind of doing it guerrilla style or shooting in really small, compact spaces.
Yeah.
That didn't facilitate the vision or the type of image that you wanted to capture. You were constantly having to retouch things out, and it just became a process.
And especially because you do portraits like in studio.
Yeah, I do in studio primarily, especially right now, in studio portraits. So in the back of my mind, I always had it as a goal that when the opportunity presented itself, or I was able to make the opportunity happen, that I would create a studio space that was affordable and accessible to photographers.
So you rent it out? Like
I do.
Okay.
So I started the business. It's called Moon7 Collective. It is a studio space in downtown LA, just south of the Arts District.
Do you guys have a website or Instagram?
It's moon7collective.com is the website. And then the Instagram handle is @moon7collective.
Okay.
It was myself and my two business partners, Mallory and Brandon, who themselves are also photographers.
Nice.
And we started it out with the vision of it being a community space and an artist collective. We provide space to access the creative self.
Nice. That sounds incredible.
Yeah, we primarily operate during the day as a photo and video studio.
Okay.
We have a total space of about 3,000 square feet with.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, 1,200 square feet of that is a dedicated actual shooting space with a psych, with a corner psych, with two huge overhead skylights. So we have ample natural light, and it's really soft and really gorgeous. And it's also, we're able to, the skylights have motorized shades, so you can close it so it's like blackout capable.
How did you guys even find that place?
So all three of us were kind of in transition spaces in our life, and so we were on the hunt.
Yeah, okay.
We're like, we want to make this happen. We're on the hunt to try and find a shooting space. And we knew that we would probably have to live in the space to make it affordable.
So just especially in LA, so expensive.
Oh my
everything,
gosh. So
everything.
it would have to be a live workspace.
Yeah.
And a friend of ours who was looking for something similarly, she's a photographer and director, but looking for something a little bit more scaled down because it was only herself and her boyfriend, let us know about this art colony called the Santa Fe Arts Colony.
Oh, I've heard about it.
It's the oldest remaining arts colony in Los Angeles. And it's around, I think 57, I might be wrong on the number, give or take a few, art studios on this campus. Ours is one of the largest studios on campus. Wow. And you have to be an artist to live in the Santa Fe Arts Colony. We have choreographers, we have sculptors, we have silversmiths, fine art painters, composers.
That's incredible. So you're surrounded by
creative
people.
Surrounded by art. That's and crazy. The creatives. And then in our space specifically, we run a photo video studio during the day, and then at night we host intimate events. Actually, tomorrow we're hosting a So Far Sounds event.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've been to one.
This will be our 5th one, I think.
Whoa, that's crazy.
It's during the day tomorrow because they're doing this month is Women's History Month. Mm-hmm. And so it's all female performers during the day. Yeah. We love those events. We love hosting music. So we have that coming up.
That is incredible.
Yeah, we're super stoked on it. And we also, in the studio, there's a full kitchen. There's a client lounge. There's a photo video library.
Whoa. You guys, like, that's like the dream for any creative person.
It really is. And then we also, for this to even happen, we knew that we would have to live there. So it's a live workspace, but when you enter, there's no way that you would tell that anyone lived there because our living spaces are so separated from everything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That sounds incredible.
It's super rad. So we rent it out.
Okay.
And if you wanted information on pricing, you can just go to our website, or email us at info@moon7collective.com.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
I really suggest everyone doing it because, especially in LA, there's not a lot of affordable options. And based on what you're saying, like the space looks sounds incredible.
It really is. And you can see photos on it in our website or on our Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate to have a garage in LA.
It's an awesome garage.
Thank you. I'm trying to fix it every day, but the garage is like where I have like my backgrounds. If I do photo portraits like in studio, and I'm shooting like after the podcast, I'm doing a shoot here in the garage. So it's incredible. But I know not everyone has the opportunity to even have a garage in LA. And when I first arrived to LA, I was living in downtown actually on 8th Street and Main. In a building, and it was all that I could afford. I didn't even have a bathroom for my own or a kitchen. It was just very, very different from Mexico, and especially because it's so expensive over here. Yeah. But I'm very fortunate to have the garage. But of course, sometimes like I need to go to a bigger studio and spaces like that.
Come to Moon 7.
I will for sure. Yeah, I'll check it out, and of course I'll give you a call. I'll be like, hey.
And also we have events. We have an upcoming event. I think it's March 21st. Okay. Called Sprung. It's being produced by one of my business partners, Brandon, who's in charge of the community outreach and events. And unfortunately, we're having our meeting about it tomorrow, so I don't have all the information.
Okay, it's fine.
But if you follow Moon 7 Collective on Instagram, we'll start marketing and promoting it.
That's cool. I'll definitely check it out.
Cool.
And I also saw on your Instagram that you travel.
I do.
A lot.
I do.
I saw that you were in Peru, that you're going to Haiti.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Peru was a workshop trip that I went with a Los Angeles photographer, Natasha Wilson.
So the workshop was in Peru?
The workshop was in Peru.
That's insane.
It was through Moment Travel. Have you heard of Moment Travel?
No.
So Moment Travel is a photography-based travel company. So they host and put together trips that are focused around photography.
Do they have anything to do with the
lenses?
Yeah. Oh, they're the same?
That's that brand, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they organized travel.
It's really rad. They do many trips around the world.
It's incredible.
They do a lot of, a friend of mine who I went on the Peru trip with, he went to Africa on a photo trip that was hosted and guided by Moment Travel. He went to Iceland and up into the glaciers. Really, really, really cool experiences.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And then I went on a Moment Travel to Peru with Natasha Wilson, who was the professional photographer who was hosting it or guiding it. And it was a trip, I think around 7 days, where every day we were going to a different location and shooting with a fashion model. And
that's insane. That's just incredible. So that's how you stay like creative.
Yeah, and also how I like meet like-minded individuals. I met some amazing people on that trip, and we still keep in contact and we still hang out.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and my roommate on the trip, actually, she's from Detroit, and she's a fashion and beauty photographer, fine art photographer in Detroit. She's also producing an art show, and so through knowing her, I have hopefully having a piece in her art show. So it's
cool.
it's another thing of a networking.
Of course.
And it's like networking with people that you love and you genuinely connect with, where the things that you do for each other are so genuine.
Of course. That sounds incredible. I'm definitely going to check them out.
Yeah,
and then
Moment Travel.
You're going to Haiti soon?
So one of the big things I think that emotionally why photography resonates with me so much is because it provides access, whether you're front row at a music event or you're right behind the lens of love for a wedding, or you're shooting a portrait of an individual and you see them stripped down emotionally.
Yeah.
Or it takes you around the world and you get to do things that you would never be able to do otherwise.
Yeah. Like literally the camera is taking you places.
It's a ticket. The camera is a ticket.
Yep. True.
And I've always loved the power of that, but I have so many different interests and using the camera as a ticket to all these different interests. And I always wanted to do documentary style work. And my sister's friend is a pediatric neurosurgeon or a pediatric surgeon. And she has a nonprofit where she travels to Haiti, I think twice a year.
Okay.
Where they perform pediatric surgeries on children that need medical care.
Okay.
Haiti's still in a really rough spot after the earthquakes, and there's a lot of political corruption in the country. Access to medical care is very rare.
Yeah.
So she brings an artist with her on as many trips as she can. And my first trip with her was in 2018. And it was life-changing. And it was something that I've always wanted to do. And I went with the intention of capturing portraits of the children who were the patients before. I was in the OR with the surgeons while they were performing the surgery.
Yeah.
And then I would take portraits, not as they were recovering, so you don't want to be intrusive.
Yeah.
But of the community and the landscape and of Haiti. And I'm going back at the end of the month, hopefully. We don't know with coronavirus. And
oh, yeah, true.
And there's there was some State Department warning about traveling to Haiti recently because of armed conflicts between the police and the army.
Okay.
At Carnival recently. So there is some it's kind of up in the air right now, but it looks like we will be going, but we don't know yet. It might be a game time decision.
Yeah. But the one that you did in 2018, was it like, for instance, did you have any expectations, or getting there, was it very different from what you were expecting?
I approached the situation going to Haiti, making sure that I wasn't going there to exploit the people by taking imagery and just... Yeah. I went there and I didn't want to have any expectation, because expectation also informs the type of imagery that you take. Like, I want to go there and I want to have this opinion about it.
Okay.
I really wanted, and especially too, because the imagery was going to be used to facilitate funds and donations for the nonprofit. I really wanted them to be a little bit uplifting,
of course,
so that it's not, but also authentic and real.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is Haitians are a very joyous, happy, kind people.
I could see that through the pictures that you have on your Instagram.
But also very suspicious and skeptical of cameras.
Okay.
So getting the yes and actually taking photos was very much a challenge.
Do you think it's because there's some photographers that it's a fine line from like exploiting, like to get the picture? Absolutely.
And also they have yet to see the return. So and I've learned a lot about mission work in general, because Haiti, there are a lot of missions that go to Haiti, and the Haitians are very skeptical of all of the missions, because for instance, and I talked to a worker, an American who had been down there for about 3 years working hard to improve the lives, hopefully, or to have an impact in the communities. And there's specific missions that will go down and build houses. And then you realize that these people don't even know how to build houses, and the houses that they're building are collapsing or causing more problems. So the efforts aren't 100% taking into account,
of course,
the Haitians.
And how do you gain their trust in order to get these pictures that you want to show the world, like real pictures?
So it's interesting because when I'm in the clinic, the Haitians that are bringing their children in, you're surrounded by doctors. So there is an inherent authority and trust, especially if they don't have access to doctors and healthcare. There's you're fixing my child. So
they're grateful.
Of
course.
And you don't want to betray that in any respect. It's really, really kind. I bring a Polaroid camera so I can take Polaroids so they can take images back with them.
Oh, that's incredible.
It ended up being the best thing ever because it's not something that they're used to having.
Of course, and just instant.
Yeah, it's just instant. So I'm giving something back, and also I try to record their names as much as possible, but also a lot of them live up in the mountains, and getting images back to them might be a challenge. But the goal is all the images that I'm taking, I'm also creating prints and mailing them to them.
That's incredible.
It wasn't as successful last time just because getting all the information, I wasn't prepared to do that going forward.
Okay. Well, it was your first time doing something like this, right?
For sure, but the Polaroid camera was...
That's a great idea. I would never have thought of that.
Such an amazing thing. And it ended up being the kids would play with the Polaroid camera and take pictures of each other, and those images were really, really beautiful.
Of course, because you would take it and then they would touch it. They would see themselves and touch the picture. And as you said, you're giving back something.
100%.
That's incredible.
But then when you're outside of the clinic on the streets, it was really hard. They would yell. Especially, I couldn't really take pictures, but when we would go to more, I don't want to say touristy spots, but spots where... More popular spots, a restaurant on the beach. And I wanted to take environmental shots, and I wanted to take pictures of the Haitians selling things. I would offer to buy something from them in exchange for a photo.
I think that's great, to get that first interaction.
Exactly.
And talking about gear, for this type of pictures, is the gear that you take different from the one that you use in the studio?
Not particularly. I don't take my super expensive lenses.
Yeah.
I try to pare it down as much as possible.
Of course, and not to be that intimidating, right?
Yeah, but also I don't want to have huge, I'm also not trying to steal pictures. I mean, sometimes I have it on my leg and just kind of as we're driving by. I still take my big camera. I just, going through customs and just for insurance purposes, I keep a list of all of the gear that I bring with the serial numbers, the value, and everything. So I know, and insurance knows, and customs know that this is the stuff that I'm bringing. But I try to take at most 2 lenses and just one body, and then a Polaroid camera, and then a travel tripod, and a flash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have everything insured?
I do. Yeah. Actually, when I was in Peru, I dropped, we were at the salt mines, and I was changing my lens, and it dropped and fell into the salt mine.
No way.
And is completely ruined. Yeah.
Did you have another lens for that trip?
I did. But, thankfully insurance replaced that.
I know. I learned that the hard way. Well, not to me, but my friends. I've heard a lot of stories that they, here in LA and in Mexico and everywhere, sometimes they would open the cars, they would steal the gear, or other photographer friends, they would just drop it, and they didn't have it insured.
Yeah.
So it's like spending a lot of money because gear is so expensive.
Yeah, gear
So
is really expensive.
I remember like when I started getting paid jobs and things like that, I'm like, I have to have everything insured, like absolutely everything.
Because even if it gets damaged and on stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of wear and tear on photo equipment, and lights get damaged, and they're really expensive to
Super
replace.
expensive.
So it's really important to have insurance. I had a really frustrating experience with photo insurance. I used to be a member of one of the professional photo associations here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Like when I was first starting out, and through that association, we had a discount to photo insurance. And they were people that didn't specialize in photo insurance. It was just a general insurance company. And it was such a pain in the ass.
Really?
To get certificates, to even file claims, do anything.
Jeez.
So I just went to Sammy's and talked to them, like who do, and I think it was TCP Insurance, Tom Pickett Insurance. And so they've been phenomenal. They've been
That's
super
good to hear.
easy. Yeah.
Because I'm sure like other people, like it's like insurance, it's just a weird.
And they're more affordable than the other agency with the discount.
Because for instance, right now I have all my equipment insured with State Farm. They have like I don't know if it's personal articles policy or something like that. I went there to their office and I'm like, hey, I'm a photographer. I travel a lot. I have expensive gear. Do you guys offer any type of insurance? And they're like, yeah, we actually work with photographers and people that have equipment like this. It's not specifically for photography, but it's called, I think it's the personal articles or something. And I haven't had to file any claim, but if I need to, I don't even know how to start or if they're even gonna help.
Right.
You know, at least I feel I have peace of mind knowing that I have the insurance. But as I said, I've never heard of any photographers like filing a claim through them. So I might like just look into other insurances.
Keep Tom Pickford in the back of your mind.
Okay, I will.
They, I think the biggest thing with, especially certificates, and especially through Sammy's, because I rent through Sammy's frequently. Sammy's requires a very specific dollar amount and certain clauses in the certificates that they receive. And the previous insurance company would never send the right one. As many times as I would follow up and outline, hey, you need to put this, that, and there.
Yeah.
So it became super frustrating, and then my insurance certificate would expire at Sammy's, and I'd have to go through this whole thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But Tom Pickford has an very established, long working relationship with Sammy's, and so they knew that if they needed to send a certificate
they know what's up.
it needed to be in this exact number and this amount in liability and all that stuff. So it just, from that point of view, it was very, very easy.
Yeah.
And they're just familiar with working with photographers.
That's great.
And they're based in Long Beach.
Oh, okay. That's handy.
I think.
I'm going to check them out for sure. Yeah. And I recommend everyone to get insurance.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're out of luck if like it gets stolen, it gets damaged, it just stops
That's my
working.
worst fear. Like if it gets stolen, I'm like, what now?
Yeah.
Well, now that I have insurance, I'm like, okay, like I have that peace of mind.
Yeah.
But before I could have insurance, I was like, if anyone steals my camera or something happens to my camera, like I don't know what to do.
And for sure, and also for just liability and accident or injury stuff for on set, because as a photographer, you're responsible for everybody on set. And to rent a space, or to rent a studio, you need a certificate of insurance. Yeah. And you can get that by the day. You can get day of insurance.
There's some apps, too, that they offer insurance for like freelancers and photographers like us. Yeah. I do some video work. Like I fly a drone, and I also have to get insurance. Yeah. So I learned like there's apps that you can get insurance for the day, which work good. I think.
Awesome.
I mean, I've never had to.
I've never used the app ones, but I've heard.
Yeah, there's like some specifics like for photographers or for other people like us.
Very cool.
Cool. All right. Liz, thank you so much for being in the podcast and this first episode. How can people contact you or how can they find your work?
Sure. So I guess the easiest place to go on Instagram at Liz Bretz, LizBretz. And then I have a website, www.lizbretz.com. And then also check out Moon7, moon7collective.com, and then at Moon7 Collective.
Cool. And I'll write all of that in the description of the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have an incredible day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the first episode of Coffee with Photographers. Please subscribe to the show, and if you have time, leave a review. If you want to know more about my photography or want to contact me, please follow my Instagram at Neto Velasco or go to netovelasco.com or coffeewithphotographers.com. Let's all be nice to each other. See you in the next episode. And if you want to be part of the podcast, just send me a direct message. See you in the next episode.